What if the person sleeping right next to you wasn't fully asleep? In a quiet Seoul apartment, a pregnant woman thinks she's building a peaceful life with her husband until the nights start changing everything. At first, it's just sleep talking, then violent movements, then waking up to injuries he can't remember causing. But when a doctor calls it a rare sleep disorder, things should make sense, right? Instead, the nights get worse, the dog disappears, the baby becomes unsafe, and reality starts to blur between a medical condition and something far more terrifying. Because whatever is controlling him at night doesn't want to stop. Before we find out whether this is just a sleep disorder or something far darker hiding inside him, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell, because what happens next will change how you see sleep forever. The movie opens inside a dim apartment where Hyun-soo and Soo-jin sleep beside each other. Jung Soo-jin lives with her husband, Oh Hyun-soo, and their dog, Pepper, in a modern Seoul apartment. The couple are expecting a baby, and their life appears stable and ordinary. That changes during the night. Soo-jin wakes and notices Hyun-soo is no longer lying beside her. He sits upright at the edge of the bed, rigid and motionless. Still asleep, he slowly turns toward her and mutters that someone is inside. His voice sounds distant and unnatural. Startled, Soo-jin asks what they should do. Hyun-soo gives no response. He suddenly drops back onto the bed and resumes sleeping as if nothing happened. A noise outside the bedroom makes Soo-jin freeze. She tries to wake Hyun-soo, but he does not respond. Forced to check alone, she steps into the dark hallway. She hears another bang on the wall, followed by the sound of a door swinging open and shut. She follows the noise and discovers a flip-flop wedged in the doorway, preventing it from closing and causing it to slam repeatedly. She enters the room and notices movement beneath the table. Tense and cautious, she moves closer. Pepper crawls out from under it, ending the scare. Back in the bedroom, she again tries to wake Hyun-soo, but he remains deeply asleep. The next morning, Hyun-soo cheerfully wakes her for breakfast. Exhausted from the sleepless night, Soo-jin refuses to get up until he helps her from bed. The couple share a warm embrace before starting the day. Later, Soo-jin answers a knock at the door too quickly and accidentally hits her new neighbor, Min-jung. She apologizes at once. Min-jung says she came to deliver a small welcome gift, then raises a complaint. She says loud noises and screams have been coming from Soo-jin's apartment every night for more than a week. Soo-jin apologizes again and promises it will not continue. While at work, Soo-jin calls Hyun-soo and tells him about the complaint. He dismisses it and suggests the neighbor is exaggerating. That evening, Soo-jin confronts him about the previous night. How he claimed someone is inside and then went back to sleep. However, Hyun-soo doesn't remember anything, which disturbs Soo-jin even more. She tells him she feels ignored since becoming pregnant. Overwhelmed, she begins to cry. Hyun-soo comforts her and denies losing interest in her. He explains that the strange line came from the script of the movie he is currently filming. To reassure her, he shows her the script. That night, Soo-jin stays awake and watches him sleep. She tries to wake him, but he does not react. She lightly taps his cheek. Hyun-soo suddenly begins scratching his face in violent, repetitive motions. She grabs his hands and calms him. He settles for a moment, then starts again, dragging his nails down his face and neck. The next morning, Soo-jin wakes to a horrifying sight. His scratching has torn open his skin and left blood across his face and neck. Hyun-soo wakes moments later with no memory of what happened. He notices her expression, then sees the blood on himself. Both panic. Soo-jin insists they visit a doctor immediately, but Hyun-soo refuses and rushes out, saying he is late for work. After he leaves, Soo-jin notices bloodstains across the floor. She follows the trail into the bedroom and finds Pepper hiding under the bed, too frightened to come out. Beneath the frame, she spots a bloody handprint. At work, Soo-jin struggles to focus. She searches online for causes of self-harm during sleep. One result suggests a stress-related sleep disorder and urges immediate treatment. When she returns home, Hyun-soo delivers more bad news. The director has removed him from his role because makeup cannot hide the injuries on his face. Defeated, he says he may quit acting and move into real estate. Soo-jin urges him not to give up. Hyun-soo admits he fears he is not talented enough. She reminds him of the phrase they live by: together, they can overcome anything. The nightly episodes soon grow worse. One night, Soo-jin watches him carefully as he sleeps. When his fingers begin to twitch, she slips mittens over his hands to stop him from scratching himself. Moments later, Hyun-soo rises from bed and walks out of the room. She follows him into the kitchen and finds him standing blankly before the open refrigerator, devouring raw foods like a starved animal. Soo-jin freezes in horror. When she tries to intervene, he brushes past her completely unaware. He makes a beeline for the sink, turns on the tap, and drinks directly from the faucet. He then returns to the bedroom. Soo-jin follows closely behind. Hyun-soo opens the window and begins climbing out. She lunges forward and grabs him just before he can jump. He struggles with surprising strength while still asleep. After a desperate effort, she drags him back inside. They crash to the floor together. Hyun-soo wakes instantly, confused to find himself on the ground. He sees Soo-jin crying beside him and rushes to help her. Through tears, she tells him he nearly jumped out the window. Terrified by how dangerous the episodes have become, she insists they go to the hospital in the morning. The next day, bars are installed on the windows to prevent another attempt. New locks are also added to the bedroom door. Soo-jin later speaks with her mother and explains everything that has happened. Her mother suggests they visit a shaman instead of a clinic. She hands Soo-jin a paper covered in incantations and says, "A spirit may be haunting the apartment or possessing Hyun-soo." Soo-jin, grounded in logic, dismisses the idea and throws the paper away. Soon after, the couple visit a hospital. A doctor diagnoses Hyun-soo with a severe case of REM sleep behavior disorder, a condition where the body physically acts out dreams during sleep. The doctor prescribes medication and recommends strict lifestyle changes, including stress reduction and careful monitoring at night. Determined to regain control, the couple follow the treatment plan to the last detail, hoping the worst is finally behind them. That night, Soo-jin watches Hyun-soo sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. Relieved, she allows herself to believe the treatment is working. The following morning, Soo-jin finds Pepper dead inside the refrigerator. She doesn't mention it to Hyun-soo. She just removes the body and cleans the refrigerator. Soon after, Soo-jin gives birth to a baby girl. The child brings a brief wave of joy into the household. At the hospital, Soo-jin's mother visits and warns her to be careful around Hyun-soo, especially now that a baby is involved. She urges her daughter to consider divorce. Soo-jin refuses. She insists Hyun-soo is receiving treatment and improving, and there is nothing to fear. Back home, the happiness of becoming parents is, however, overshadowed by Hyun-soo's bizarre sleepwalking episodes. Hyun-soo suggests renting a nearby apartment and sleeping separately until he recovers. Soo-jin rejects the idea. She insists they stay together and solve the problem as a family. She decides to make adjustments to keep everyone safe. She raises the baby's crib beyond Hyun-soo's reach, while Hyun-soo gets to sleep in a sleeping bag with his arms and legs restrained. Though the arrangement is humiliating, he accepts it for the child's safety. Soo-jin spends her nights reading reports about violent sleepwalking incidents, including cases where parents accidentally harmed their children while asleep. Each story deepens her fear that Hyun-soo could hurt their daughter. Eventually, panic gets the best of her. One night, she takes the baby into the bathroom and sleeps with her inside the bathtub, believing it is the safest place in the apartment. During the night, she is startled by a continuous violent pounding on the bathroom door. Soo-jin clutches the baby tightly and waits in terror. Then the banging suddenly stops. She slowly opens the door and steps out. In the bedroom, she finds Hyun-soo standing over the crib, urinating into it while still asleep. The next day, they return to the doctor and demand stronger medication, convinced the treatment is failing. The doctor calmly explains that progress can take time. He urges patience and continued monitoring. Frustrated and exhausted, Soo-jin strikes him and calls him a quack. Back home, her anger spills onto Hyun-soo. She asks what they are supposed to do now. Hyun-soo tells her not to worry and says he will find another solution. Later, Soo-jin steps outside for a cigarette. Min-jung joins her. The neighbor talks casually about how difficult raising a child can be. Soo-jin assumes she is referring to the nightly noise and apologizes again. Min-jung shrugs it off and says, if a marriage becomes miserable, leaving is always an option. Soo-jin laughs uneasily and dismisses the advice. Hyun-soo's new solution is to sleep in the car, away from the family. That night, Soo-jin goes outside and asks him to come back in and at least sleep in the living room. He refuses. She returns upstairs and barricades herself and the baby inside the bedroom. The next morning, Soo-jin's mother arrives with the shaman she has recommended for weeks, convinced the problem is supernatural, and insists they give him a chance. The shaman begins a cleansing ritual and explains that spirits can attach themselves to sleeping people and use their bodies. She claims a ghost has latched onto Hyun-soo, but that Soo-jin is the real target. According to the shaman, the spirit wants Soo-jin alone and is tormenting everyone around her to remove obstacles. She warns that it could kill those close to her if left unchecked. She tells Soo-jin to think of any man she may have hurt in the past, because knowing the ghost's name could help during an exorcism. Before leaving, she places talismans in the living room and bedroom. Hyun-soo remains unconvinced and views the ritual as nonsense. That night, Soo-jin tries to persuade him that the shaman may be right. Hyun-soo asks who the ghost could be. Soo-jin says she does not know, since all of her former partners are still alive. Then she hears noise from Min-jung's apartment and remembers the elderly man who used to live there. He had often disturbed them with loud sounds. Hyun-soo reminds her that the old man had always been unusually fond of her. The next morning, Soo-jin visits Min-jung and brings dog food as a gift. Min-jung invites her in for coffee. While talking, Soo-jin asks about the apartment's previous tenant. Min-jung reveals it was her father. When Soo-jin carefully asks what happened to him, Min-jung says he died. The shaman's story suddenly makes sense to her, and he asks for his name. From then on, Soo-jin believes the old neighbor's spirit has possessed Hyun-soo. She stops sleeping and spends every night guarding the baby. While Hyun-soo sleeps, she whispers questions and calls him by the old man's name. He responds with sleepy grunts and mumbled sounds, which only deepens her suspicion. She starts keeping a knife nearby. The next morning, Hyun-soo finds a talisman under the bed and asks why it is there. Soo-jin says she placed it there and he has not risen during the night since then. Hyun-soo realizes she has been staying awake every night to watch him. He tells her she will collapse if she does not rest. Later, Soo-jin wakes to the baby crying. She rushes to the crib and finds it empty and the bedroom door wide open. Hyun-soo's restraints lie undone. She runs through the apartment in panic and reaches the kitchen. A large pot boils on the stove. Terrified, she lifts the lid and finds only water inside. A moment later, Hyun-soo steps out of the bathroom carrying the baby. He notices burns on her wife's hands and rushes to grab ice from the refrigerator. As he turns away, Soo-jin strikes him from behind, knocking him unconscious. When Hyun-soo wakes, Soo-jin already has him tied down. She stands over him with a knife. Fully convinced the dead neighbor now controls him, she demands to know what he wants from her and begs the spirit to leave her family alone. Shocked and frightened, Hyun-soo pleads with her to stop. He says the hospital has approved a new prescription and promises he will recover soon. Days later, Hyun-soo visits the doctor alone. The doctor tells him his sleep disorder has been successfully treated. He asks about Soo-jin, and Hyun-soo replies that she's ill and recovering at the hospital. After, Hyun-soo and Soo-jin's mother arrive at a psychiatric hospital to pick Soo-jin up, only to learn she's already left. He calls her phone repeatedly but can't reach her. When he returns home, he finds the apartment transformed. Yellow paper and black ink cover the walls. Talismans hang from every door and piece of furniture. Their modern home now looks like a shaman's shrine. Soo-jin emerges from the bedroom and asks why he took so long. She tells him his recovery changes nothing. He's still possessed by the dead neighbor. She links the man's death to the night Hyun-soo first sat up and said someone was inside. That was the moment the spirit entered him. Every episode, every strange movement, every night of terror are all proof. When Hyun-soo announces he's fully recovered, Soo-jin drops a bombshell. An exorcism was performed on him without his knowledge. Shocked, He stares at her in disbelief and begs her to stop this madness. But Soo-jin is convinced the ritual worked. The shaman marked his body during the ceremony, keeping the spirit away for 49 days. Now it's the 50th day, and the ghost will return unless they drive it out tonight. Hyun-soo refuses to listen and heads for the door. In anger, Soo-jin grabs the plaque bearing their old mantra and throws it at him. She asks why he hung it there if he plans to run whenever things get worse. This stops Hyun-soo in his tracks, and he turns back. Now calmer, he asks what she wants him to do. Soo-jin leans in and whispers something into his ear. Hyun-soo walks to the refrigerator and opens it. Inside, he finds Min-jong's dog dead, hidden among the food. Repulsed, he rushes to the bathroom and vomits. Soo-jin follows and tells him she'll do whatever it takes to protect their family. Then, Hyun-soo discovers something worse. Min-jong is tied up inside the bathtub. He rushes back into the hallway and sees Soo-jin entering the bathroom with a power drill. Stunned, he can only watch as she drags Min-jong into the living room. Soo-jin believes the only way to remove the old neighbor's spirit is to kill his daughter in front of him. Hyun-soo pleads with her to stop, but she's beyond reason. She points the drill at Min-jong and demands that the spirit inside Hyun-soo reveal itself and leave forever. Hyun-soo tries to move closer, but each step brings the drill nearer to Min-jong's head. Soo-jin orders Min-jong to call for her father and beg him to come out. Crying in terror, Min-jong pleads for the spirit to leave Hyun-soo's body. When Soo-jin presses the drill against Min-jong's head, Hyun-soo suddenly speaks in a strained voice and says the spirit will leave if she stops. At that moment, a police officer knocks on the front door. He's there with Min-jong's young son, who became worried when he couldn't find his mother. The distraction gives Hyun-soo an opening. He lunges forward and wrestles the drill from Soo-jin's hands. Then Hyun-soo's body begins to twist and hunch forward. His voice turns rough and raspy, like the dead neighbor. He tells Min-jong to care for her son and consider moving away. He complains about the barking dog and the constant noise from the woman upstairs, meaning Soo-jin. He's tired and only wants to rest. Soo-jin watches through tears, convinced the spirit is finally revealing itself. Hyun-soo shuffles toward the door like a frail old man. He stops at the doorway, looks back at her, and lets out a heavy sigh before collapsing to the floor. The room falls silent. After a moment, Soo-jin moves toward Hyun-soo and kneels beside him. Hyun-soo opens his eyes and looks up at her. He tells her it's over now. The spirit is gone. Soo-jin breaks down and embraces him on the floor. And that's how it all ends. With everything shattered, and no one truly sure if Hyun-soo was ever just a victim of a disorder, or something much darker wearing his face. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more intense recaps like this.